Yes, sir. Welcome back to the Dropping Dimes podcast. So, for today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest acquisitions of the Los Angeles Lakers, and we will be answering this one very simple question: are the Lakers really better now after acquiring Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, Mark Gasol, and Wes Matthews? Okay, so let's get straight to the point. I know this may not be like a very popular opinion, as everyone is really, as expected, caught up with all these transactions going on. But I personally think, yes, I personally think that the Lakers are not actually better after these acquisitions. They're not. And I'm gonna present my reasons for saying so. Okay, so again, just to recap, the Lakers won a championship, and they won a championship because practically everyone knew who the main stars were, right? And are still the main stars, by the way. None other than, of course, Anthony Davis and LeBron James. While the others, they practically knew their roles. And they played so well because these other guys never complained and just did what they had to do. And it resulted into a championship. But that's really going to be changing in the upcoming season because they have practically revamped their team. They waived Quinn Cook, they traded away Danny Green, they let Rondo walk, they let Dwight Howard sign with another team, the Sixers to be exact. Markeith is not going to be coming back as well. So it's going to be a new team. Now, what's my problem with that? Championships are actually made not with just the mere acquisition of talent that you put together just for the sake of being the most talented team. That just doesn't work that way. Uh, Everyone would agree that chemistry means a lot, right? You know, you can be so talented and so good on paper, but then if those guys are not on the same page, there is no way that that team's gonna win, regardless of how talented they may be. As the LA Lakers of 2004. Now, what is happening now with the Lakers? People are now thinking that they get Schroeder, they get Harrell, they replace Danny Green with Wes Matthews, they get Mark Gasol at the expense of JaVale McGee. So how did they become better all of a sudden just because of that? Let's start with Schroeder. Schroeder essentially replaces Rajon Rondo. Rondo was like the third best player on their team last year, especially during the playoffs and in the finals. Rondo brought so much stability because of his playoff experience, massive playoff experience, championship experience, and his leadership out there. Rondo was such an essential part, especially in times when they needed a facilitator out there aside from LeBron. And if it's just about the money, the guy just asked for 7.5 million for crying out loud. He got a 15 million 2-year contract from the Atlanta Hawks. And yet you would go and acquire Dennis Schroeder, who by the way is a baller. I have no questions about his talent. He is a baller. But when did Dennis Schroeder ever win anyway? Right? Like this guy has never played in any significant big games in his career. He has never won anything. And yet here he is, going to be replacing a two-time champion who was just the third best player, who happened to be the third best player on the team during the championship run. So wow, I don't really know how that's going to make them better. And then of course, another one is of course Montrez replacing Dwight. I don't know if people forgot how Montrezl Harrell disappeared in the playoffs, especially against the Nuggets. That's actually one of the reasons why they lost, why the Clippers lost. Not just because of pandemic P or Kawhi Leonard struggling, it's because Montrezl Harrell was not playing well as they would have wanted to. And yet this guy, Montrezl Harrell, just signed a 2-year $19 million deal to replace a guy in Dwight Howard who was one of their important defensive stoppers on Nikola Jokic during the playoff run. And it's not like Dwight asked for 19 million. He actually just got a contract, 1-year contract that is close to the minimum. All he was asking for was like 2 point something million, and yet they went for Harrell. And then of course, Danny Green. They traded Danny Green to get Schroeder, right? So that they could replace Rondo. So they got Wes Matthews in return. That's the guy they targeted so that he can replace Danny Green. All I know is this. Danny Green won 3 championships with the Spurs, with the Raptors, and with the Lakers. Yes, he missed that shot in Game 5, but Danny Green, you cannot take away all the contributions that he had for the Lakers last year. And you're going to replace him with a guy in Wes Matthews. Much respect to the guy because he came back from a ruptured Achilles. But all I know is this. Wes Matthews has had a ruptured Achilles, and he was part of a Milwaukee Bucks team that was bounced in the second round. It's not like he was super in that series. He was okay. But yeah, they chose Matthews over Danny Green. And then lastly, and probably the one that really pushed me to make this video in the first place, JaVale McGee, just a few days back, picked up his player option so that he could come back to the Lakers. And now, because of the availability of Marc Gasol, the Lakers decided to dump JaVale McGee to the Cleveland Cavaliers of all teams so that they can make way for Marc Gasol. JaVale McGee, I'm sure most people, if not all people, would agree with me on this. JaVale McGee was probably the most professional, or showed the most professionalism of all of them during the playoff run. He never complained. He was always supportive. He was a great teammate. He did everything right. You never heard him saying anything bad. He was just a great teammate. And when his number was called, he stepped up. And then what happened? After being the nice guy, after doing that for the team and helping the team win a championship, take note, JaVale McGee is a champion even before he went to the Lakers. He won a championship with the Warriors. People might forget that. And after doing all those good things, What do the Lakers do? They choose Marc Gasol over him. Yeah, I know Marc Gasol is a former All NBA team player. He's an All Star. But for anyone who saw Marc Gasol play in the bubble, we know that Marc Gasol's days of being an All Star and an All NBA player is way behind him already. He's not the Marc Gasol of old anymore. Yes, he can bring rebounding, his high basketball IQ. He can stretch the floor, etc. But isn't it you choose the guy that won with you, right? And you're gonna choose Marc Gasol over him, even if you know that Marc Gasol is already declining. Man, I feel so bad for JaVale, honestly. And but of course, he would always say it's a business, so can't really do anything about that. So, are the Lakers really better now? That's the question. Are they really better now just because they acquire these four guys? They acquired them at the expense of losing guys who were who may not be the star players on the team, but played their roles willingly, brought experience, provided the great camaraderie. So are they better? I don't think so. And this might actually catch up with them later on. Not in the regular season, but when they're playing these playoff basketball games again. Would Schroeder really be able to replace what Rondo brought? Would Montrez show up? Would Wes Matthews hit those big shots or make those key defensive plays? Or will his Achilles even stay healthy? And then would Mark Gasol, would he be able to accept not playing as much and being just a mere role player? We don't know. A lot of NBA teams got better this offseason, and I don't think the Lakers are actually one of them. So that's it for today's episode of the Dropping Dimes podcast by J.I. Dimes. If you like the episode, kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell and also hit the like button and comment. Whether you agree or not, feel free to comment. So this is the Dropping Dimes by J.I. Dimes. We'll see you on the next episode.